Hi, I'm John. This is my show, An American Scheme, where I'm proving that Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's actual mother. So, one of my biggest issues that I keep yelling at the Michael Jackson fans is that Diana Ross can pass away at any time. Smokey Robinson could pass away at any time. Those are Michael Jackson's real parents. They have a unique story to tell that only they can tell. Now, Mary Wilson, she's the same age as Diana Ross. She was right there in the primettes. She's right there with Diana Ross, right? So right after Diana Ross abandons Michael Jackson, because Diana Ross's birthday is coming up here on March 26th. Then she'll be 76 years old, I believe so, because Mary Wilson, it says here, 76. So Diana Ross is about to turn 76. Now, that's what I'm saying. They're the same age. Okay, so they always say how the primettes began when Diana Ross is 15 years old. And I read on here also it said when Mary Wilson was 15 years old, she started in the primettes, okay? So at 15 years old. So when Diana Ross turns 15 years old on March 26th of 1959, yeah, so when that would be 1959. She's born in 1944. Yeah, so in 59 is when she turns 15 years old, okay? So when she's 14 years old, so Michael Jackson is born on August 29th of 1958, okay? So if she gives birth to Michael Jackson on August 29th of 1958, okay, then you're talking about a period of less than half of a year before she turns 15, and then she begins the primettes. Her career starts, okay? So it's just a fact that after Michael Jackson is born, now if people, okay, let's say Michael Jackson doesn't have anything to do with Diana Ross, just look at a simple fact of what happened. One thing in the world is that Michael Jackson, when Michael Jackson was born, 6 months after that, Diana Ross forms a group. She starts in the primettes. Okay, that's where her actual career, okay? Now, because people, everybody sings. Like, if you become a professional, then they're going to look back and say, oh, well, they started singing here, and they started singing here. Okay, but everybody was doing all that stuff. It's just not everybody's professional, so they don't go back and analyze your life to figure out, well, where did they start all this stuff, and how did this happen and stuff, right? So what happens with Diana Ross and stuff is that they say her career starts with the primettes at 15 years old. Because the key thing is, not only is that her career starts with the primettes, the key thing is what you find out is that she's 15 years old. And if you just look at the date, the correlating dates in history, what you find out is that Michael Jackson is born about 6 months, less than 6 months before they start off into the primettes, before she turns 15, before they start in the primettes and start doing a different path in life. That's her career path now. It's not just we're messing around and stuff. Because when you see her career path, it was directly like she had a bullseye target going right to Motown, because what I say the real story is that Smokey Robinson got Diana Ross pregnant when Diana Ross is actually not even 14 years old. She's still just 13. So when she gives birth to Michael, she's 14, you know. So I always say 14 because I always say that she gave Michael away when she's 14. But in reality, what happens is that Smokey Robinson met Berry Gordy in August of 1957. This is how everything starts, and this is actually the beginning of Motown. So this is why it's so important of Mary Wilson, because it's like, well, you want to know how Motown, because everything about my story, I'm always talking about actually the creation of Motown, which is so integral to the Supremes. They're such a big part of Motown, and Mary Wilson's right there, she's a founder member of the primettes with Diana Ross. She's right there in the beginning of everything, right? And so she had to see things that's like one of these things that's like she saw, well, it's her, she wrote the book, the Dream Girls, I believe that's her story. I believe Mary Wilson's the one that did the Dream Girls, you know. So, and I saw Diana Ross, well, these are like weird things. I have a lot of information of stuff I could tell you, like little things and stuff, but it's like, well, it's one of the things. Think about how much information she could tell you if you want to start asking her these different questions. Say, well, what did you see here? But they never talked about that stuff. Or I don't know, but did they? There's like I said, she made the movie Dreamgirls. It's one of those things with Dreamgirls. It's like it's like it sees what's going on, but I think that it doesn't actually understand the biggest point. I don't think that she knows. I don't think she knows. I don't think anybody knew that Diana Ross got pregnant by Smokey Robinson right after Smokey Robinson met Berry Gordy, because the actual facts are that Diana Ross was best friends with Smokey Robinson's niece named Sharon Burston. Diana Ross would go to school with Smokey Robinson's niece. They were the same age. They were in class together. They were best friends. They lived on the same street because Sharon Burston, Smokey Robinson's niece, also lived in Smokey Robinson's house. So when people always talking about Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson's friendship, they always talk about, well, they lived on the same street on Belmont and stuff, all right? But they don't talk about that Diana Ross is best friends with Smokey Robinson's niece, and because of that relationship, Diana Ross stays over at her friend's house. They live on the same street right there, and then she would sleep over at her house at Smokey's. It's Smokey's house, though, is where Diana's sleeping over. And at the time when Smokey Robinson's starting to form the Miracles, you know, it's probably the Matadors at first. I think he changed the name of the Matadors. I heard is that see, sometimes the stupid name just loses my name. But when his wife, Claudette, when Claudette came into the band, the Matadors, that's the thing. So they had to change the name, the Matadors, because that was more of a male thing. Because when Claudette came into the group, then that's when they changed it to the Miracles, right? So August of 1957 is when Smokey Robinson meets Berry Gordy, okay? So that's where Motown, so Berry Gordy at the time when Smokey Robinson meets Berry Gordy, it's because Smokey Robinson is going to the Brunswick record studio for an audition. That's how they meet. Smokey Robinson didn't go to Berry Gordy and do an audition. Smokey Robinson didn't go to Motown and do an audition for Berry Gordy. That's not how it happened. People don't actually understand how big of a deal that this little technical part of the beginning, the creation of Motown, this is how it is. And this is in August of 1957. That's what I'm saying. So this is like, you know, Mary Wilson's right there in the neighborhood. She's 13, same age as Diana Ross, you know. So this is the Motown's developing, and she is in the neighborhood. I don't know all of her story. When I would have liked to have been able to ask these people. It's like, now that you know this story, now tell me what was going on in your neighborhood. What were you seeing when you hear my story? So Smokey Robinson meets Berry Gordy in August of 57 at the Brunswick record studio. Okay, Berry Gordy's not building Motown at that time. People need to understand, it's so important to understand that that's a fact, and that's how it actually happened. So when Smokey Robinson goes to the audition at Brunswick, he's turned down, but Berry Gordy happens to be there because he's a songwriter. He's a real songwriter, and he's writing songs mainly for Jackie Wilson's his big artist who's on the Brunswick label. This is how Motown got built. Berry Gordy's a songwriter. He's working in the industry, but he hasn't built his record company yet. One day, Smokey Robinson walks into his life. This is how the whole thing started. People that don't understand, I keep pushing and trying to get people to understand, this is how it started. And if you're not talking about if you're not telling this story, then you're not talking about my story at all. You're not telling anything. And this is what I'm saying. It's like Mary Wilson, she had a right to hear the story. She had a right to have heard the story, to be able to go back and look at her life and have things answered for her. That maybe she saw stuff going on, but she never knew exactly what was going on, because if you didn't see Diana Ross when she was actually pregnant, if all they had to do was keep her away at that time and just cover her up a little bit over that period so you couldn't see that she's pregnant, all they had to do is make sure the people around didn't, and it's actually, people think like it's like, oh, long periods. It's not. These girls get pregnant and she's thin as can be. They could just keep her as thin, and when she starts to really show, she just, she stays out of sight for a few months there in the last few months, and then that's it. There was really a few months they just had to cover up where people really wouldn't have known what was going on. So I don't know the story, but maybe it's one of these things like maybe Diana left town for a few months. I don't know, but maybe Mary Wilson could have told us, oh, you know what happened? Diana left. I do remember. She could have said, yeah, Diana left town for a few months there. See, these are things I don't know, but we could have got these answers from these people. They have information that they don't even know that they have, because they don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't think she knows. She does not know the story of what I'm saying. Now, here's the story. So, when Smokey Robinson meets Berry Gordy, this is in August of 1957. Now, it's just a fact. These are facts of the matter. At that time, when Smokey Robinson meets Berry Gordy, they instantly start working together and start building a record company together. They start making the Miracles, or like going to, he's going to produce the Miracles, but he's also now produced, Berry Gordy, not only is he going to produce the Miracles and make records for them, because he's got contacts, so he's doing things like that before they actually start Motown. He is working with Smokey Robinson and making records, you know. But so he's making Smokey Robinson. This is what Berry Gordy's like, okay, I got an artist now. I'm going to start working with him. I'm going to start building them. But Berry Gordy then, because now he's got an artist to start building, he now starts to build a record company. And then Smokey is now seeing what's going on. So Smokey now is encouraging him, because there's a big deal when I think it's the song Bad Girl. And then when they released that song, they didn't have, this is early with Tamla Records, before it's even Motown, they didn't have national record distribution for one of the very first records that came out for the Miracles. So what they did was they went to Chess Records, because there's a lot of connections with Berry Gordy to Chess Records in Chicago. Okay, and so Chicago, that's right there where right above Gary, Indiana, where the Jacksons are at. And think about like Chicago, like where did the Jacksons actually become like their actual thing? It's at the Regal Theater. At the Regal Theater in Chicago. That's where they meet Bobby Taylor, this known story about the Jacksons, so at the Regal Theater in Chicago, where they meet Bobby Taylor, that's where then Bobby Taylor takes them and introduces them to Susan DePass, the story about how the Jacksons are discovered, right? But so what I'm saying, just the facts of the matter is Chicago. What a lot of people don't know is that Chicago is the city where Chess Records is at. And Berry Gordy has connections to Chess Records, and you can prove that because on the first Miracles album, the Bad Girl, it's released under the Chess label, because they had national distribution. They're a big record label. But so that's one of the things with Chicago, what I'm showing you, is that people think Detroit, and you think everything is about Berry Gordy, and you think everything is in Detroit when you talk about like Smokey Robinson and Diana Ross, and you talk about Berry Gordy and then Motown, you talk about Detroit, right? But as soon as you look at the first album that's being produced, one of the first albums, because the actual first ones come out of New York, you know, there's a very first one before that even too. But so when Bad Girl comes out, it's on Chess label. Okay, so what happened at that time, and then it went national distribution, but I believe that they didn't get their proper money for that. So then Smokey Robinson told Berry Gordy, why don't we just do this on our own? We need to, and that's where Motown actually got built. That's like, and so that's what I'm saying is like when Smokey Robinson met Berry Gordy, it's not like Berry Gordy was Motown. They were still trying to figure it out, okay? So when Berry Gordy and Smokey Robinson meet is in August of 1957. So Michael Jackson is just a fact. He's born in August 29th of 1958. So basically 1 year after Smokey Robinson meets Berry Gordy, basically 1 year after that. These are just facts, okay? Michael Jackson's born. Now, people say, whatever, we're not talking yet about the conspiracy stuff, about what they pulled off. We're not even talking about that. We're just simply stating facts. Now, it's a fact that at the time when Smokey Robinson meets Berry Gordy, okay, that's in August of 57. Berry Gordy's not built Motown yet. That has not happened, okay? Michael Jackson is born basically 1 year after that. Michael Jackson's born, and then what you find out is at that time in life, if you go and you look at what Diana Ross is doing, you find out that, okay, Smokey Robinson's in the Miracles, so Claudette's in the band. So Claudette's already in the band, and he's dating Claudette. Okay, so Smokey Robinson has his girlfriend, Claudette. See, these are things too with, we could have asked Mary about Claudette and Smokey, and what was Diana talking about? Like, what was she always talking about Smokey? Like, these are things, it's like, we lost all that. And that's why I scream at the fans. It's like, you don't know. It's like, okay, now me, I'm like really like, man, you people don't know what we lost. What we lost in Mary Wilson by being able to have her story being right there. I mean, she was close. Okay, because that's, even though I'd say I don't think she knows that it happened, but that she was that close and didn't know, it's incredible to be able to have her actual, like, real life interpretation and her version of what happened. It's like, okay, Mary, tell me, did you know? I would like to have asked her, you know, and then from that, and then to get her then, her reinterpreting her life, because she would go back and she would say, I didn't know that that happened. She would then go back and start looking at and analyzing all these little things and saying, oh, you know what, this happened. You know what, now that you say that, well, this happened. We see, that's what I'm saying. We lost that. The people don't get. I know what we just lost. We lost all of that. It's a big deal. I would have loved to have heard all of that story. I would have loved to have seen her go back and reanalyze her whole experience, now knowing the true story that Diana Ross gets pregnant by Smokey Robinson and abandons the child. And that's how the whole development of how everything is, and the inside connection of what Diana Ross had that they don't know. None of them ever knew that Diana Ross had this inside connection. They knew that there was something with Smokey, but none of them knew that she had this inside connection with Berry Gordy. Okay, none of them knew this. This is the whole thing. I would have liked to have heard her reinterpreting her life after she knew that this had happened. Okay, because it's right before she starts the primates with Diana and all the stuff, right? What would have happened in the beginning? I bet right in the beginning she's saying, we're going to make it. Diana's telling them, we're going to make it. We're going to make it. I'm telling you, we're going to make it. We can do this, you know? I bet Diana was really encouraging right at the beginning, like saying, we can do this. This is real, you know? Where they would have been just thinking, okay, this is fun. We're girls. We're going to make a group. I bet Diana was coming right off at the bat because Diana had the connection now. She knew what she was doing. She had a focus. She had a direction. Okay, I would have liked to have heard Mary Wilson's interpretations of all this stuff, but we lost it all. And like I tell you, I blame the Michael Jackson fan community. This is your fault. I've been here telling you that this stuff is, my story is all laid out. All you got to do is just look at it. It's all you have to do. Just look at some videos. We're in YouTube, and it's too much for me to ask Michael Jackson fans to look at some videos that are talking all about Michael Jackson history. Oh, and that's too much. I'm so rude. Jesus Christ. So we lost this. This is gone. And now, if we lost her, Diana Ross, it's not like she sat and she was dying from a long battle of cancer and then we knew she was dying. She just died. That's what it said. They didn't give, it says she just passed away. Okay? Diana Ross could just pass away. If it was her, it's like 50-50. It could have been her just as well. It could have been Diana Ross. Okay, we lose Diana Ross. That's gone. If we do not get her to be confronted with the true story and have her telling her the true experiences, what we lost, it's like, what we lost, it's too much for me to have to carry. That's the other burden too, for them to put this on me. And for me, it's like, this is ridiculous. This is a lot. This is heavy right now. If Diana Ross or Smokey goes, because even Berry Gordy is going to be, he's still out there too. If he goes, we're going to lose a lot too. But the Diana and Smokey is just going to be devastating. It's going to be, for me to have to carry that then, it's ridiculous. So what happened? Let me get back in the details of what happened in the very beginning. So, because I was stating that, I'm showing you the dates and actually what's all going on and the events of what's occurring and stuff and everything is what's happening. So, Diana Ross, she turns 14 when she turns 14 years old, so March 26th of 1958. Diana Ross turns 14 years old. And if you look in her biography, when you look at Wikipedia and look at her history, you'll see that that's where her history starts. Because they talk about her getting into the primates and stuff. So when they talk about her history starting is when she's 14. And then they say that that's where she changed schools. She started and she enrolled into Cass Tech. And then one of the reasons I think that they bring in the Cass Tech is because she moves at Cass Tech. She ends up starting to work into being a clothes fashion designer, right? But I've got her on video documented, and her older sister was already attended Cass Tech, and she's like a doctor and stuff, right? So Diana, if she was going to Cass Tech, you would think that she's going to go there, like, okay, like in her normal life, you would think, okay, Diana going to Cass Tech, you would think, okay, well, that makes sense. Actually, her older sister went there. She's like a doctor, and so when her older sister would have went to Cass Tech, she would have went there studying biology and calculus and, you know, crazy stuff, all that crazy doctor stuff, right? So her older sister would have went there focused with a degree in like medicine and biology, whatever, something like that, okay? I say, and my story says that no, when Diana Ross went to Cass Tech, it's because she's pregnant. It's because she's pregnant is why she's enrolling into Cass Tech. And she's going to Cass Tech, it's because she has she's got family connections to Cass Tech, but she's not going to Cass Tech because of an education. It's not because she's been aspiring for some reason to go to Cass Tech. The reason she goes to Cass Tech is because she's pregnant. And she needs to now go to Cass Tech because she's being pushed by her family to saying, you go to Cass Tech now, because they haven't figured out that they're going to give the kid away yet. Their family, when she's pregnant, because she would be pregnant around, just say like New Year's. It's around that time, but just say New Year's so we can get a clear time of, we're talking like New Year's of 1957 to 1958. Let's say she gets pregnant around that. It's a little before that, I think. But let's just say right around that time, right? So when they always say in her biography that at 14 years old, so that's March 26th. So that's just a little bit after that New Year's period of time. So they say that's when she enrolls into Cass Tech. But if you actually look at her, you'll see and then, like I said, they always said she went to Cass Tech to study fashion design. But I was always saying to them, no, when she goes to Cass Tech, it's because of the pregnancy thing. And then what I have her, it's on the show called Inside the Actor's Studio, where she's doing an interview. So like, that's the video where it's at. I know where to go, the exact one, if I want to go find it. I have it in a video. But she says when she goes to Cass Tech, and this is Diana Ross, she's being interviewed on there, and she says, I went to Cass Tech, and she says, I was studying fashion. But this is what she said. She says, oh, but no, when I first went, I was studying home economics. Okay, so Diana Ross said there, she says when she first enrolled in Cass Tech, she's studying home economics. Okay, the studying of home economics, that doesn't align as her sister being the doctor, and now it's like, okay, Diana Ross's turn now to go to Cass Tech, and she's going to go studying, and she's going to go study home economics. That's not what it was. Think about the reality, though. Diana Ross gets pregnant, okay? Now her father's like, you need to go to this school to start focusing on a career because they're thinking she's going to have a kid. Okay, think about the reality. If she's just early in the pregnancy, right? Because she'd be early in the pregnancy. That's when Michael Jackson is conceived. He's born August 29th of 1958. So she's early in the pregnancy on her 14th birthday, which is where they say that she transfers to Cass Tech. So early in the pregnancy, they haven't figured out that they're going to abandon the kid yet. So her going to Cass Tech is more of a thing from her parents and stuff, saying you need to get an education because you're going to be a mother. Now, if she's being pushed to go to Cass Tech under those circumstances, what would be the degree that she would be studying at Cass Tech? Wouldn't it be home economics? And then, like I said, I've got her saying that when she first enrolled into Cass Tech, she's actually studying home economics. But then she learned, because then she's hooking up with the Berry Gordy and all that stuff's developing and stuff, she learns through the home economics that she can develop that into sewing. She learns that there's a sewing thing, that she can then develop the sewing into an actual, her major, whatever the term is, and she becomes like a fashion designer. You know, that's what she wants, that's what she claims that she was studying there, you know. And she did learn that skill because that was a quality school that she actually went to. But the home economics, that aligns because she's pregnant. She got the kid. So then what happens is Berry Gordy is building Motown. Okay, so I don't think I've explained the other part really quick too, is that Diana Ross was sleeping in Smokey Robinson's house because she's best friends with Sharon Burstyn. Okay, so I have Diana Ross saying that she would listen to the Miracles playing down in the basement like that, and then Diana Ross says that Smokey Robinson was her first love. Okay, so at the time when Smokey's playing down in the basement, like I said, Diana Ross, it's before she's 14, because when she's talking about all this stuff, she's talking about when Smokey first is building a record and she learned that you could really make a record, and she's actually specifies the dates because she's saying it's all before Motown and all this stuff, and she's saying that Smokey was her first love and she's really in love with him. Okay, but when you actually check back at the day, she's young at that time, okay? And Smokey's actually got the band The Miracles, and Claudette's in The Miracles, which ends up being his wife. So for Diana Ross to be spouting out about her first love being Smokey Robinson, well, she's proclaiming a love when she's young. Why is she spouting this out? It's one of the things that's like she couldn't do it in this day and age because of like the culture of like, you know, the cancel culture and the Me Too movement and all that stuff. It's like if she was coming out saying, I was in love with Smokey Robinson, I was sleeping in his house, and if people said, well, how old were you? And she was like, 13 years old. You know, people will be like, wait, what are you talking about? And then, you know, why is she saying that stuff? Because the reality is that Smokey's dating Claudette. And he marries her just like a year and a half later. Claudette's like, well, Claudette was 15 years old at the time of the situation where he's in the band with Claudette. Smokey Robinson's like 17. Claudette be like 15, and Diana Ross is 13, but coming on 14, you know? It's like that's kind of the situation of what's happening at that house. Smokey Robinson's in the band, and he just hooks up with Berry Gordy, and he's starting to build a record company, okay? So Claudette's in the band with Smokey, but Diana Ross is in the house. This is actual facts. And then Diana Ross is also in love with Smokey Robinson. Okay? She's saying Smokey Robinson was her first love. She was really in love with him. But it's like one of those things that's like, well, when did she have an opportunity to be in love with Smokey Robinson? Because, you know, the Motown stuff all started. Claudette's in the band with Smokey, and Claudette then marries Smokey. When Claudette's like 17, she marries Smokey. So Diana's like 15 at that time. So at the time when Smokey marries Claudette, Diana's still just like 15. So even like, I mean, so what's even that for Diana to be saying that's her first love? What's she talking about? Because Smokey's hooked up with Claudette. So for Diana to be talking about this, it's really weird for her ever to be proclaiming this story about being in love. But then she didn't just say, like the story I have, she doesn't just explain that she's in love with Smokey Robinson. She explains how she's sleeping in Smokey Robinson's house because she's best friends with Smokey Robinson's niece, Sharon Burston. You know, the whole story. So when you look at the actual dates of what occurred, and like I said, you'll see that Michael Jackson's birthday, you'll see how it lines up back when you take it back to him being conceived right around that New Year's of 57 to 58. That's smack dab in the middle between Smokey Robinson meeting Berry Gordy in August of 57, and then Diana Ross changing schools at Cass Tech in March, on her birthday, it says, you know, so March 26th of 58. So this is March. So like right in the middle of that, what happens in the middle of that? Just as a fact, if Michael Jackson somewhere in the world is conceived, like right in the middle of these things occurring, right in the middle of Smokey Robinson meeting Berry Gordy and Diana Ross changing schools when she turns 14, right in the middle of those events, Michael Jackson is conceived. Like those are just facts, okay? So now what happens is I say that when Berry Gordy finds out that Smokey Robinson has gotten Diana Ross pregnant, because there's a point where Smokey Robinson has to tell Berry, because it happened. And he's like, hey, Berry, there had to be a point, because this is still before Motown. It's not, they're trying to build a record company, you know? So Smokey, and now Smokey would be like 18 years old. They're starting to get now, Smokey's going to be like 18. And it's like, okay, Smokey has to tell Berry, hey, there's this girl. She lives right down the street. I've known her for a long time. She sleeps over at my house because she's best friends with my niece who lives with me, you know. So Smokey would have told her the story. He says she was sleeping over at the house one night. I had sex with her, because this is what actually happened, you know. He would have been saying, yeah, right after I met you. It's right after I met you. That little girl jumps in my bed, you know, because that is what happened. Diana Ross found out that was happening, and that's what push Diana, give her the motive to go after Smokey in that way. And so Smokey's telling Berry Gordy the story, you know. Smokey's telling Berry, okay, I got this little girl pregnant, you know. She was sleeping in my house, you know. We're in the band, we're hanging out, and she's hanging out. We're up, and she jumps on me, and I had sex with her, and I got her pregnant. That's how it happened. I mean, that's how Michael Jackson's actually conceived, you know? That's what I'm saying. It's like, we need to hear their story. I can give you interpretations, but imagine what their story would be like, you know? It would be incredible, you know? Like I'm saying, Mary Wilson's around at the neighborhood when all these things are occurring, you know? There's things that she saw that she didn't even know that she knew, and things that she saw that she didn't know she saw, you know? So I would have loved to get her and allow her to have the opportunity to look back and see the true story. Like I said, I don't think none of them knows, because all they had to do is cover up this one little part there. And because, like I said, with the Diana Ross getting the primettes at 15, that's right after she's given the kid away. So, you know, they don't know. They don't know what happened. So Diana Ross, because this is what happened. So Diana Ross right there, she jumps in bed with Smokey, gets pregnant. Smokey then is having to tell Berry Gordy. So now Berry Gordy, this is the actual, when you look at the times and dates of moments of history and stuff, right? Just look at it like, let's say on Diana Ross's 14th birthday, okay? So on Diana Ross's 14th birthday, which would be March 26th of 1958, okay? If you look at what Smokey Robinson and Berry Gordy are doing together, they're actually starting, now Berry Gordy is producing records with Smokey Robinson and starting to get them to release on other record companies, which they're having the success and having the problems, but now they're starting to understand that they need to build a record company together. They're like, okay, we're doing this, right? So right at the moment when Berry Gordy and Smokey Robinson are starting to like do this together, when you look at the moment of history of like where Michael Jackson's actually born and stuff, you see how it correlates with those dates. And then so now when Smokey Robinson tells Berry Gordy, I got Diana Ross pregnant, and now Berry Gordy is like, dude, we're building a record company together. And Berry Gordy sees what he has in Smokey and the Miracles. Berry knows, because Smokey's a songwriter. It's not just a band. Smokey's also a songwriter. So that's the whole thing of where Berry's really like, this is my guy. Because he's an artist, he's young, he's a singer, songwriter. I mean, Berry knows what he's looking for, and this is the guy. He got it. This is his guy. It's Smokey Robinson. It's Smokey. He knew what he was looking. He knew what he was. Berry Gordy knows what talent is, right? Okay, so the guy that Berry Gordy is going to start building his company around, it's Smokey Robinson. People don't, a lot of people, I keep pushing it in their head, trying to get them to understand. It's like, dude, it was when Smokey and Berry met, that's how Motown got built. Berry Gordy was not building Motown until he met Smokey Robinson. So now he's starting to work with Smokey, and they're putting out records. It's like, okay, now Berry Gordy's got the focus. It's like, it's starting to happen. So right at the time when it's starting to happen, that would be the time when Smokey would have to tell Berry, hey, Diana's pregnant, you know? This is also happening too, okay? So at that moment in life, now think about just reality. What would these people have to do? What would be the reality of what choices would they be having to be dealing with at that time? It's like, okay, well, if Smokey has the kid, like think if you're Berry Gordy. If you're Berry Gordy and Smokey's going to have that kid with a 14-year-old Diana Ross who's right in the neighborhood. Okay, so now if you're Berry Gordy and if that's an option, what does that do for your record company, and what does that do for working with Smokey Robinson and stuff, right? I would think Berry Gordy, because he knows that image, and when you know about Motown, it's all about image and stuff, about what they were doing, because they're trying to sell records to the white community. They're trying to transition to have black music being sold to the white people, like on a massive level. Like he's really, where it's not like going to be black music anymore. It's going to be everybody's music. Like that's what Motown was like doing. It's black music, but it's going to be enjoyed by everybody and accepted by everybody. And in order to do that, Berry Gordy knew that the image of what Motown was going to represent, this company, it needed to be a clean image with good artists who spoke well and presented themselves well, and they dressed well. They knew how to everything, all right? So Berry Gordy knew that. So on his first artist being Smokey Robinson, like just think about the reality. When he finds out if Smokey's got a 14-year-old girl pregnant, okay, that's a problem. Do you think Berry Gordy is going to build his whole company around his #1 artist who's got a kid from a 14-year-old girl in the neighborhood? That's a problem to Berry Gordy. So now Berry Gordy, that's why I say that Berry Gordy that's why I started to look at Berry Gordy, because I realized this is how my investigation worked and how I get to the Jacksons. Because what I learned at that point, I learned that Berry Gordy was the person now that had a lot to lose, right? So then I started investigating Berry Gordy. Then when you investigate Berry Gordy, what you find out is that Berry Gordy and Joseph Jackson are the same age. And when you go back and find out, you find out that when they were both young, they were both fighting in the Golden Gloves at the same time. And they're a lighter weight class. They're not the same weight class, but they're close. And, you know, like Gary, Indiana and Detroit, it's only a couple 100 miles away. And I've got Berry Gordy's fight record. I couldn't find Joe Jackson's. It just wasn't there. But I got Berry Gordy's, and one of the things about Berry Gordy's things, he fought a couple fights in California. So I'm just mentioning that to show you that the Golden Gloves fighting thing, within that, traveling occurred, a lot of traveling, to where he was traveling to California. Okay, so Chicago's like right there, you know, and Gary, Indiana, and so Detroit, they're all like right there. They're all moving around in those neighborhoods and stuff, right? So I say that Joseph Jackson and Berry Gordy, they became familiar with each other's names. Whether they ever met each other or not, that's to be determined. But I would say at some time they became familiar with each other, that they were fighting in the Golden Gloves. They knew each other's names. And then I think they probably met each other. And then what happened is, after they both get out of the Golden Gloves, they both go into music. They start into music. And Joe Jackson, when you follow his music career, you find out that his first band, called the Falcons, when he was in 1952, there was a guy in that band named Pookie Hudson. Pookie Hudson left Joe Jackson's band and started his own band, and that band became a legendary all-time band called the Spaniels, which is actually one of the original founding bands of the original doo-wop style. Okay, so the Spaniels is one of the bands that was one of the first ones to do this doo-wop singers, right? Where you got the lead singer with the doo-wop singers in the back, which is, when you want to talk about Motown, Motown is built off of like doo-wop. It starts with like a doo-wop. That's their style. That's a big part of how their whole, of how they're created, right? So in the early 50s, one of the main guys that starts this doo-wop stuff is a guy named Pookie Hudson in the band The Spaniels. What you find out is that he's from Gary, Indiana, and he was actually in Joseph Jackson's band, the Falcons. Okay? So right there, you've got Joseph Jackson directly connected to one of the original creators of doo-wop and make it the Spaniels. It was a good band. They're really good. And Pookie Hudson. And then you got Motown coming out with the doo-wop stuff. So see the connection to Berry Gordy, and with the music interest right back to Joe Jackson, it connects really close. That they're interested in the same kind of music and stuff, and they're real musicians. And in that music scene of what's going on, these people's names are known. You learn their names really quick and stuff. And Joe Jackson's a guy who, he knew all these people. He's very underrated. About people don't know that he was a blues guitar player. See, that's the thing. Joe Jackson's a blues guitar player. Like the Pookie Hudson wanted to do this doo-wop style. That's why he leaves and stuff, really. But Joe Jackson is in the blues guitar scene because he's right under Chicago. Okay, Chicago is where the Chicago blues, the music scene, right? And so, and in Chicago, they have the Chess Records. And if I've got Joe Jackson's brother saying that Joe Jackson was hanging out with Howlin' Wolf and like Jimmy Reed, you know, and so those guys are on the record labels right in that area. They're blues people who know Joe Jackson. Joe Jackson actually knows a lot of people in the music scene. He's very underrated about what people know. So what I say is that when you see that Joe Jackson and Berry Gordy are the same age, you find out that they were having the same interest, that they were boxing at first, then they started getting into the music career scene and stuff. And I say that they knew each other. Can I pin down exactly the moment when they met and stuff? No, but I've got connections, like heavy connections. Like when you start going into that stuff, you start finding out that there's massive connections. That Joe Jackson's got way more connections than we ever knew. And like when he goes to when he's going to produce the Jacksons and doing the stuff, that's why he had a direct path, because he knew exactly what he was doing, because he knew all the people. It wasn't like he was just some guy who had kids and just said, oh, my kid's got talent, we're just going to start a band, you know, because he's like, oh, I played around a little bit. No, he was in the scene. He knew legitimate artists and stuff. He knew the real music scene that was in the Chicago area and stuff like that. Joe Jackson was a part of that, but the people don't actually understand that he actually knew what he was doing. And so it's like Joe Jackson was hooked up with Marshall Thompson of the band The Shy Lights before the Bobby Taylor and all that stuff happens at Regal. Joe Jackson's totally hooked up with Marshall Thompson of the Shy Lights and running around the Chicago area, you know, before any of the Motown stuff. So it's like Joe Jackson had serious connections with serious artists in the business before he went to Motown and stuff, right? You know? But that's because he had the kid, because he got the kid. And at first what happens is he tried to do it, and he tried to show Berry Gordy, hey, look at, but Berry Gordy's like, I'm giving no record contract to a 6-year-old kid plus your whole damn family. I mean, you can see where at first Berry Gordy would be put off by that. Like, what are you talking? No, I'm not doing that. And that's why then Joseph, okay, you're not doing it. And that's why then Joseph's like steps it up. You got to hit your marks. You guys got to be good. We got to show him. We got to show him. We're going to be good. We're going to show him. And because Joe knew what he had at that time. He knew he had connections, and he knew he had the talent of Michael, and he was not going to be stopped. And he didn't. He didn't let anything stop him at that time once he got Michael, who had the connection. So what happens is Berry Gordy who tells Smokey, hey, we got to get rid of this kid. This kid's got, and he says, look I know this guy, Joe Jackson. He's got a family with a bunch of kids in it, you know. The religious household, all the things of what would have sold them to say Michael will fit into that house perfectly. The Jacksons, right before that, they were supposed to have twins, and one of the kids passed away in birth, you know? So that house would have been in need of another boy. It was a perfect fit. In so many ways, it's a perfect fit, you know? And then it's out of state, it's out of the way, but, you know, it was perfect. And that's what happened. So Berry Gordy talked Smokey Robinson into getting rid of the kid. They convinced Diana Ross and this stuff, so that's how it happened. That's why then Diana Ross at 15 years old, when she starts into the Primettes, where Mary Wilson is right there. Right at that moment, Mary Wilson was right there. Like as soon as possible. Plus she's around. That's what I'm saying. It's like we lost her story. So right at that moment when Diana is like, I would like to know, like when Diana was, I bet Diana was like, we're going to make it. We're going to Motown. It's like instantly, we're going to Motown. I bet Diana instantly was telling them instantly, we're going to that, whatever, because at first it might have been Tamla, even in the beginning it's Tamla, but she's saying we're going there. Because she's like, we know Smokey. But what had happened is, Berry Gordy had to have convinced Diana Ross to abandon her child to the Jackson family. Okay? So Berry and Smokey are already hooked up together. But now once this has happened, now Diana, that's how Diana gets the connection with Berry Gordy. And all of the things of what you look to in the future of like where Berry Gordy puts Diana Ross to the head of the Supremes, how the Supremes even get to Motown with Diana Ross just forcing, they're like barreling their way into there. They're going there. There's no doubt that they're going there. She's hanging around there all the time. They're going there. They're going to be signed there as quick as could be. And Berry Gordy then states that the Supremes' first audition, that he says, I was just walking down the hall and I hear a girl singing the song, there goes my baby, I want my baby. Okay, so Berry Gordy states he hears somebody singing that song, and he said he stopped in his tracks and he went back and looked, and it was Diana Ross. Okay, so as stated by Berry Gordy, the Miracles, or the Supremes' first audition, he hears Diana Ross singing the words, there goes my baby, I want my baby. Okay, now let's take it into the context of what she had done, that she gave her kid away. Now, would she be singing those words to Berry Gordy under the context of she had abandoned her child and now she's looking for a record deal? And she's saying, like, Berry, don't forget what the hell I did to you. So what words is she singing to him? There goes my baby, I want my baby. You know? That's what she's saying to him. Go look in freaking Berry Gordy's autobiography. That's what he says happened. How come these things are happening and aligning perfectly, and then Diana, they get the deal. Diana gets put to the head of the Supremes. Then Berry Gordy's dating Diana Ross from like 1965 to like 1970. They're in a serious relationship. Why is Diana? Boom. Then he hooks up with Berry Gordy. You know, she hooks up because they've got this deal. They've done this deal in the past. They've got their connected in a way that they're only connected in that way. It's Berry Gordy, Smokey Robinson, and Diana Ross are connected in a way that like nobody else is connected. And Michael Jackson, the kid that was abandoned originally, the kids that originally abandoned, he's just a baby. They don't know that it's Michael Jackson. You right? But that's why Diana Ross is infatuated with Michael Jackson, because Michael Jackson ends up being the child of her and Smokey Robinson. One child that Diana had with the one man that she was super in love with, that she was looking at him as he's the most beautiful man. He's got all the talent in the world. He's the greatest thing, right? And she had a child with him, one child, and that child ends up becoming Michael Jackson. That's why Diana is so overwhelmingly, totally infatuated with that kid. She's totally infatuated with that kid. Okay, now, if she had abandoned this child that she had with that Smokey Robinson, the guy she's in love with, and then that kid then becomes an artist and comes back, do you see the infatuation that she would have for that kid from the time when she's like meeting him and everything, and how she's like, come live with my house. Yeah, I want to produce their records. She wants her name all over that. She's going to everything that she's saying right off of the beginning. She's telling the whole world, that's my child, that's my kid, everything. She's saying everything I do is for him. The kid's living in her house. This shit's actually happening. Now, with those things happening, doesn't that fit the exact circumstances to show you how she would be acting when this kid comes back and he's got all this talent, and she's like, that's my kid that I abandoned from Smokey, that's our one kid, now he's come back. She's like looking at like, this is like God stuff, you know? Like this is like, she's like looking like, this is God stuff. So now, at all the times when that's occurring, okay? So Mary Wilson would have saw a lot of things occurring. Like right in the beginning times, it's like, it's like, Mary Wilson, I would like to ask her, like, Mary Wilson, what's the first time you ever heard Diana Ross mention the Jackson 5? And I bet she would say, oh, it was like a couple years before the Jackson 5 came to Motown. You know, but we lost that because I've been here for a long time, but the fans won't ever do any, and just investigate look at, if my story's wrong, it will crumble. My story would crumble to pieces, just like your stories will crumble when I start coming at your stuff and I start attacking it with hard facts and hard dates and actually serious analyzing of what's occurring and stuff. I tear your stories to pieces. You people don't see that there's only one story standing up here anymore. It's my story. So y'all are a bunch of loser, moronic idiots, and you're actually fighting against Michael Jackson and his true story, and you're stopping him from being free and of being free of all the lies, unless you help me and my story. That's all there is to it. You want to shut me down? Shut me down. I welcome it. I welcome the hardest challenge from any moron out there. But when you start seeing that your facts and what you thought was facts and proof and stuff, when you come up to me, I'm going to stick that stuff right back in your face with real facts, and you're going to run and cry like a little child because you're not strong enough to deal with the reality of what I'm showing you. And that's what happens every time. So then none of these people come back and try to shut me down because I instantly show them that they're totally outmatched. And then it's like, well, be a Michael Jackson fan. If you're a Michael Jackson fan, you should be interested then in hearing Michael Jackson's real story, but they're not interested because they're not Michael Jackson fans. They're all fake, and they've allowed an integral person in the telling of Michael Jackson's true story, they've allowed another one to pass away and just be gone. They don't care. They don't care. These are Michael Jackson fans are horrible, evil, disgusting people. All of them. I'm sick of them. I'm going to just bash them until they stand up and prove that they're not that, because that's what they are. I never met any good Michael Jackson fans. I sure as hell have met over an abundance of disgusting, pathetic, evil people who claim to be Michael Jackson fans. And you people are so disgusting, you allow these people, real people, to just die. You don't care anything about them. You don't care about allowing them to tell their stories or allowing them to have the experience to reinterpret their life experience when they get this true information. You don't care about them. None of you people care about anybody. All of you care about yourselves. You're fake, disgusting Michael Jackson fans. I'm sick of you. All of you. Why don't one of you stand up and prove that you're a real Michael Jackson fan? Prove that you're a good person. Prove something except that you're evil, disgusting, stupid slaves living in this world that you're just, oh God, you're horrible people. And you just let people die and you think it means nothing. You people don't know what this means. If she died, Diana Ross could die. Smokey Robinson could die. Just like that. We lose them. You people, that's it. You have destroyed Michael Jackson. You are like stomping on him, on his grave. You are letting these people die. You're freaking having a party. It's like all those people, every year they go party at Michael Jackson's on his funeral and all the stuff like that, you know, whatever shit. And, you know, where do they go? Do they go for his birthday? What's bigger? Is it his birthday or the day he died? It's the day he died, right? That's the day they celebrate. Yeah, they all celebrate. Yay, Michael Jackson died. He died. They all celebrate the day he died, right? They stomping on his grave, stomping on his grave. That's what they do. That's what I see. They're all demonic demons. They're evil, wicked people. None of them really care about Michael Jackson. They want to celebrate his death.